Hello, everybody. Oh, shit. Oh, that's really interesting, Jason Voorhees. I didn't know that. Hold on, let me get my stuff working. Hey, Casey O'Tany. Oh, shit, everybody's here. Hey, Marlon. Hey, Sebs Dev. Sebs, I appreciate you coming in today. That's very nice. Let's give a shout out to Sebs and Sean and Casey. I got a bunch of cool people in the chat. Hold on a second. Alrighty. All right, how's that? Does that sound better? All right, y'all go follow Seb's Dev. They're really fun. Okay, it's good now. Good. I've turned on my shit. Seb's Dev is a streamer, very cool person. They do fun drama streams I like to watch. All right, let's see. Let's shout out Anarchist Laboratory. There we go. Shouting out Anarchist Laboratory. Hey, Semus. And yeah, I mean, y'all know the radical indigenous left comrades that we have at Anarchist Laboratory. Love talking to them. They're really cool. Sean is a friend of mine from Twitter. So, okay. And KCO Tenty. Let's do this. KCO Tenty. There we go. Casey is doing art streams and sometimes theory streams, trying to teach some stuff. And we got, of course, my BFF Sal. If you're not following Sal, you're fucking up. You better fix it. Oh, shit. Hey, Grim, welcome. Wow, Sal on a 5-month streak. Shit. I appreciate that, Sal. The $3 of your thingamajig is going to go buy somebody some peanut butter and crackers to get them through a couple of days. So thank you for buying. Smith says hello to Grim, Sal, and everybody else. Oh, Jacob's here. Awesome. Hey, Ancom, Psycom. Righty. I just gave y'all a shout. Oh, Sean says hello. Smith says hello to you too, Sean. Okay, hold on. Let me do this fucking thing. All right, y'all can't just be making me your go-between person. Say hello to Smith. I'll come look at the chat in a minute. Okay, they're gonna come look at chat in a bit. Hey, Abby, welcome. Y'all should follow Abby on Twitter for funny shit that they put online, especially related to left flank vets and other cool stuff. They do really fast video edits and memes and shit. Abby's really about it. So hey, Exquisite Orbis, welcome. I just started. I really just started. My streams are getting later and later. It's actually funny. It mirrors the way that I do fucking whatchamacallit. It mirrors the way that I do what is the word I'm looking for? AA meetings. I would show up really early in the beginning, and then as the years went on, I started showing up later and later. One day I'm going to be showing up like 40 minutes late to stream. I'm going to be like, where the fuck is Gomer? 40 minutes into the stream and he's not here. True, T-Griff. I should have learned my lesson last time. And look, Smith is in the chat, here to cause problems per usual. Shut up, Smith. So okay, yeah, everybody say hello to Smith. Give Smith all the attention. Very good. All I have to say is Smith just made me a very good dinner, and I'm very appreciative of them. So I appreciate you, babe. Thank you for being in chat. You're the best. You're awesome. Thank you. Yes, Lexi, exactly. Just sleeping in, being terrible. Comrade Chef, yes. Grim is trying to say hello to you, Smith. You better say hello back. Thanks, Sebs. You're cute too. Sebs is very cute. Sebs also has a very cute voice. It's funny. I got a lot of cute streamers who follow me. Sean and Sebs. Y'all are just great. Okay. You know this is a Wendy's. Okay. So what am I doing today? I'm doing base stuff from the Anarchist library. So hear me out, y'all. You know I'm an authoritarian communist. You know I would consider myself a communist, a socialist, right? I read a lot of Lenin, a lot of Mao. I mostly just call myself a communist because I think calling myself a Marxist Leninist is very odd. But you know, I believe that we can learn from each other. Oh yeah, some people call me a Maoist for sure. The people who hate me the most tend to call me Maoist. No, I mean, the people who hate me the most call me all kinds of other things. But anyway, we have a lot to learn from each other, and we're not that far apart. Tanky, exactly. And generally, I think that so much of the quote unquote complaining about tankies and the quote unquote complaining about anarchists, and I don't even say the word people call anarchists, you know, I think that shit is silly. And red fash, yeah. And I bonk, somebody bonk Sebs. Somebody give Sebs a bonk for being horny. Anyway, I think that shit is psyops, mostly, to be honest. I think that shit comes from the FBI. I think that they get on Twitter and they stir up shit and try to make us fight each other. And it's always like a person with an account from 2018 with 10 followers who is the main character of the day. You know? Cool, Jason. You could post a link. Or, I mean, I think you can post a link in chat at this point. I think everybody can post a link in chat. I forget. Anyway, Palestine will win. That shemag is fake as fuck. I mean, this shemag is one of my fake ones. You want to see one? I got some real ones. I just picked up some real ones. You want to see some of my real ones? Yeah, exactly, Marlon. I agree. I totally agree. But anyway, we ain't talking about that shit today. Yeah, Exquisitor Orbis. Everyone wants to see my real shemag. Smith, when you get a chance, bring your cool shemag in here and maybe grab my other shemag from my drawer. I got a couple more on the way. I ain't worried about it. Palestine will win 92. I'm sure you have better shemags than me, no doubt. This is a fake ass white boy shemag. There's no doubt about it. I would go so far as to call this a scarf and not a shemag. So anyway, getting back to it. There's a lot of good stuff we can learn from each other. I think we should never stop learning from each other. We should never stop trying to work with each other. That does not mean we all need to be in the same organizations. In fact, I think that being in separate organizations allows us to more effectively do what we need to do. But I think that our organizations can work together, and we as individuals can work together very easily, right? So that's why I do stuff on anarchism sometimes, anarchist theory, right? I was originally doing back and forth one anarchist text with every communist text, but I found that, Marxist, Leninist, whatever you want to say, but I have actually found that like so much stuff is not dedicatedly Marxist, Leninist, or anarchist or whatever. So many revolutionary texts could apply to anyone that I don't need to even think about it in that term, right? But every now and again, I do like to do an explicitly anarchist to match some of my explicitly socialist stuff that I do. All right? So, yeah, much less can I even tell the difference between them. I agree, Sean. I totally agree. There's a ton of crossover. And not only is there a ton of crossover, most of the time, people who are arguing about shit, right? I mean, a lot of the people who are arguing about shit are not in the streets whatsoever. But so much of the arguing that happens is by the terminally online or FBI ops. I have worked with anarchist organizations. Anarchists are in my communist group, right? Um, that, but they understand that it is a communist group. It's like a dedicated communist group, and they're cool with that. So that helps. Yeah, Smith is terminally online, everyone. I will call them out for that right now. Yes, Sal Cobb, I do. Sal, I hate. Anyway, communist me is about to talk about some cool anarchist stuff. So strap in, everybody. Let's go. Motherfucker, hold on. There we go. Okay, so here's a disclaimer. These are my fucking opinions. Leave me alone. I am not an anarchist. Do I believe a lot of the same things that anarchists believe? Yes. Do I understand the need for change in much the same way that almost all of my anarchist friends understand? Yes. Do the tactics that my anarchist friends have line up with my own? Yes. Do we have much of the same end goals and immediate means of getting there? Yes. So much so that it is almost impossible to tell me apart from an anarchist unless you are talking about a few key issues, right? But anyway, I'm still not an expert, so take this for what it's worth. Okay, that's all I'm saying here. I don't teach on anarchist theory. I read anarchist theory, and then I present to you what the fuck I think about it. All right, so this is Comrade Gomer's personal opinions on shit that, this particular one is a lot of shit that I agree with. Some of the things I don't, but a lot of it I do. All right, so we're gonna stick to that, and I'm gonna point some of that stuff out. Oh, yeah, I don't talk to sock dems. Sock dems. What the fuck is a sock dem? Sock dem in the nuts. Anyway, getting a 3-second sneak peek. Hell yeah. That's right, buddy. Okay, so anyway, this is based on some notes on insurrectionary communism by Sasha K., a random person. It was originally printed in Killing King Abacus #2 in 2009. Yes, yeah. Hey, well, Seb, okay, hold on. Seb's Dev, let's talk about that for a second. I think especially the quote-unquote libertarian socialist types who have latched on to Vosh, who think themselves to be very enlightened and very smart, and who shut down non-white people of all political stripes every single day. You know what I mean? I don't fuck with them people. And they oftentimes will call themselves anarchists, but I have a lot of anarchist friends who do not fuck with them either, right? So I would go ahead and say that my friends like Sean would not give the time of day to some of those motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, why am I not presenting on a more major anarchist theorist, right? Why am I not presenting on someone like Malatesta, Bakunin, some of the ones that I have talked about before a bit? Well, the answer is a lot of modern anarchists that I talk to do not venerate the old guys at all. I mean, they sometimes will say, like, okay, I follow more or less this thing that this person talked about, right? But a lot of people I hang out with, a lot of people I talk to are not sitting around reading hella books. I'm not saying the anarchists are opposed to theory. I'm simply saying that a lot of times synthesized theory or modern day updates to theory is a fundamental core part of my anarchist friends' beliefs, right? Yes, Ancom Psycom. Vosh legitimately thinks he is a libertarian socialist. He says it. It's his thing. He says it. Do I think that that is wildness? Do I think that that is an insult to other people who called themselves libertarian socialists? Yes, I do. But he is basically, he's co-opted that shit. He's co-opted that shit. Yes, I know. Pasta La Pizza. It's something else. It really is something else. Now hold on, y'all. Don't argue about libertarian socialism in the chat. Gunslinger, I'm not saying you're doing that, but Gunslinger, hold on. there's there's a time and place for the libertarian socialism conversation. I've had it 100,000 times. We can't do it right now. I do recommend that either DM Sean or I to have a little bit more of a conversation. So anyway, this is an anarchy stream. Oh, that's true. You can talk about whatever you want. This is an anarchy stream. So, I will pass on that. All right. Fair enough. Modern explanations of older theory is completely legit, right? So this thing that I'm reading has taken a lot from The End of Anarchism by Luigi Galliani. Okay, Elisa, holy shit. I haven't seen you in forever. That's my dear friend Elisa, y'all. Elisa, please hit me up on Signal sometimes. It's been a really long time since we've talked, and I miss you. Anyway, Anarchy in the UK is a good song. It's true. So, anyway, I just like this text. Like this fucking some notes on insurrectionary anarchism is based as hell. And I read The End of Anarchism by Luigi Galliani, and I was even going to like try to compare and contrast between the two, but I was like, this shit is boring. I'm sorry, y'all. This other book that a lot of this took from is boring, and I just didn't feel like fucking making a presentation about it. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I stop halfway through a book. I will not tell y'all all the books that I've stopped halfway through. I generally do tell you at the time when I stream which ones I do, but sometimes I only read half a book because I get bored. Anyway, all right, sea shanty time. In Amsterdam there lived a maid, mark well, what do I say? In Amsterdam there lived a maid, and she was mistress of her trade. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving. Shut the hell up and leave me alone. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. I'm sorry, get the fuck out of here. I swear to God. Y'all know, let me just tell y'all about Smith a little bit, all right? Smith comes in here talking some mad shit, and let me tell you something. Smith interrupts me singing all the time. Smith has never listened to a full song of me, ever. Who made you dinner? Listen, you're dangerous hammer right now. Your dinner points only go so far. Yeah, but my hammer points take me a lot farther. Stop. Hammer time. Oh shit. Cancel Smith, indeed. Hey, Wholesome. Hey, Conway, how you doing? Will I be singing Bakunin as well? Bakunin. Sorry. Okay, the Dogda. You said that a couple of times now. The first time I thought it was funny. The second time I do not. And the third time I'm bored. So, yagada. Anyway, I remember Chantilly talking about how old white guy theorists just don't inspire people to revolution like folks like Audre Lorde. Very fair. Chantilly, I think, is an anarchist. And they are in my group. So, hey, Spectral, welcome. Smith, let me tell you something, Smith, if you fucking threaten Seb's death, I'm going to unmod you so fast. And last time I did that, you were so sad, so you better watch out. Okay? Anyway, I love my partner, y'all. I'm just playing. Y'all know we're just playing. We talk to each other like this, but it's all love. And if either of us ever actually feel sad when we play fight, then we stop and we take care of each other, because that's what you do. That's what you do in a consensual relationship. I did Exquisite Vorbis. I did watch that video on Black Anarchism. On the couch. I sleep on the couch sometimes. I do. There's no big deal for that. All right, so let's get to what this text talks about. All right. Now I'm going to be talking about what anarchy is. You know, that's from the text. It's not me, Gomer, telling y'all what anarchy is, because I know some people in the chat may not like that. Hey, John. You slept on the couch last night, Grim? Did you and Brian get in a fight? Play fighting is our kink. Stop it. Do not tell people that. They'll think you're serious. Yeah, my couch is great. If my couch does do this weird thing where every now and again it'll release a little puff of air that smells funny. But besides that, it's really comfortable. Smith is the one who cannot sleep when I'm not in bed. So Smith has to make very specific decisions when they think that they want to put me on the couch because it means they're not going to sleep either. I'm sorry, Grim. You text me, buddy. You know you can always text me. It is not me. All right, Smith. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I fucking thought. Okay, so getting back to it. Anarchism is a means for destroying the domination of the state and capital, which means it is not an ideology and it is not utopianism, right? So it's praxis. According to the author, anarchism is open mutiny, right? So what does this mean? Well, in my opinion, look like I'm about to rob a train. Indeed, I might be, especially talking about this right now, right? Yeah, anarchism is a method and a philosophy. Fair exquisite Vorbis. What I think this person who wrote this thing is trying to say is that the philosophy aspect is not the dominant one. The philosophy aspect is not so funny, so great. The means aspect, the method aspect is, important. Yeah, John Brown. Hell yeah, Magoki. Good shit. Everybody say hi to Magoki. So what specifically the author says is that the anarchists of the past who really got some shit done were insurrectionary, right? That there were certainly thinkers. There have been people who've done some a fair bit of discussion, debate, publication, but that fundamentally the insurrectionary aspects were getting shit done. I think that's interesting. I think the same could be said for quite a few communists, right? That we have had communist writers, but many of the communist writers who are the most effective, who are the best at writing, were the ones who were also getting shit done. All right? So my personal opinion is that there is a inextricable link between praxis and the philosophy, right? That if it is lacking praxis, it will always be lacking in depth of understanding as well. And it is not surprising to me that this author said this about, anarchism, because truly, I think that I cannot think of a communist writer that I have thought of that I got a lot out of that wasn't a fucking revolutionary. And when I say revolutionary, I don't necessarily even mean revolutionary like me, like someone who believes in revolution, wants to organize towards revolution, is trying to do some shit, trying to put some shit together, right? Trying to teach. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about people who are out there like, guns in the bushes and shit. So the author does said, I don't know who Jack is. The author does say that anarchism requires analysis, right? It requires discussion and adaptation to material conditions and modern circumstances, right? But that doesn't mean that it is focused, that anarchism is ideology. And it's certainly not utopianism. And this is very important that the author points out several times, that like the idea that eventually things are going to get better and we don't need to worry about it right now is anathema, is actual anathema to anarchism. And you know what I mean? Like that is some pretty good shit. That's pretty good shit. Guns in the bush is revolutionary, yeah. So, yeah, T. Griff, good shit. So the author says the state will not wither away. Sasha K, based as they are, say the state by itself will not wither away, which is what I fundamentally believe, right? I have a little bit of a joke here, the DSA, you know, this fucking picture. Um, but waiting teaches only waiting is something that I want on my fucking tombstone. You know what I mean? Like, that is a based and amazing phrase. That is something that I think I will take away from this reading, perhaps forever. Waiting teaches only waiting. If you are going to learn how to act, if you are going to learn how to be effective with real shit, right? When I say real shit, I don't mean marching around in the streets. I don't mean a bunch of nonviolent methods, right? To do it is to learn how to do it better. Acting teaches you how to act, not propaganda. And definitely, the author says, not condemning people who are acting against the state, right? Exactly. Be the change you want to be in the world, baby. That's all I'm saying. Exactly. And that's really what they're saying here is that, like, it's only through being the change in the world that you want to see that the change happens, right? Jason Voorhees, I did read that. I forgot about it. Please feel free to post it again because I am very happy to, I'm very happy to read it again. I read a lot of shit, so sometimes I forget. Also, I smoked a lot of weed in high school, so my brain is not so good all the time. The Boys of Beastliness, yes. The author is conflating withering away with waiting. Oh boy, he XD. Yagada, dagada. Goodbye, helicopter meme man. Hey, Darth Aztec, welcome. Gomer is not an anarchist, but Gomer does see that anarchists and communists have so much in common as to almost make us natural allies and at times indistinguishable, especially in early phases. So, insurrection is what's important, right? Actually doing things to make things happen in a physical, real world way. It's not military, though. It's regular people taking up arms, right? So that's very interesting to say, right? The measure of success of an insurrection isn't troop numbers, it's not battles, it's not the number of people killed and stuff like that. That's not what this author is saying. They're saying it's the disruption to the economy. It's crippling of the economy, is what the author says, right? And I think that's quite an interesting way of putting it. That, like, we're not LARPing out here. We're not trying to do things to feel cool, etc. We're not like, like, this is not an identity thing. This is not a fun thing. Man, motherfucker. Let me tell you what. Nut, you're not getting banned. Y'all don't time out Nut or ban Nut, all right? I just want to say, I am a communist, buddy. I know personally that getting rid of the state creates a situation which some other state can take over or rise. This is something that I... All right, bitch. That's enough out of you. Yeah, I gotta. Sorry, didn't mean to use gendered language. I apologize. Didn't mean to use gendered language. So Darth Aztec, please don't tell Lennon on me. Is that true, Dorian Sapiens? Well, here we are. Looks like Nut is on Nut version 1044. Looks like they've been banned quite a few times from different places. So let me hey Stark Raving, how you doing? KJ, hey, I remember you from an earlier chat. I was arguing with you a bit, so I hope you've come here to be friendly. Nut 1045 has entered the chat. No Nut Friday. Hey, Smith, take care of pre-banning sub 24. Actually, no, don't. Let's see if sub 24 comes in and talks. That'll be quite funny, actually. I just want to say it's very interesting that, like, generally speaking, I do not get so many people to come in and troll. But as soon as I put based anarchism in my stream title, I get a bunch of trolls. What's up with that? Y'all get a bunch of trolls, Sean? Ancom, Psycom, y'all get trolls? So, anyway, Sean, that's an interesting point. Sean says, I think a lot of revolutionaries kind of misunderstand how the revolution will look or how it'll proceed. I think a lot of folk think it'll be all fighting in the streets and such, but that's a single component that tends to come in waves. There's also the social aspects and whatnot. And Sean, I do agree. But I think it's very interesting to say that the revolution is a key aspect. In fact, that's one of the things they say. It's a goal, it's not a myth or an abstraction, right? And so you have to have a cultural revolution. You have to have a social revolution, or else the military revolution doesn't mean anything at all, right? To smash the state and then allow discrimination and bigotry to continue means you haven't actually smashed the state. You've simply gotten rid of the municipal services and such, right? The state remains in people's hearts and minds. It's not a real anarchist revolution. It's just some bullshit. So yeah, revolutionary activity is multi-pronged, but I also think that there is merit in what this person is talking about. When this author is saying that insurrection is necessary, that insurrection has to start, I think there's something to the idea that the only way to truly regain power, in not an abstract way, not in a fooling yourself way, to truly learn how to do insurrection, you have to do it. I buy it. I buy this idea that if we purposefully leave off that aspect, if we always do this thing where we talk about a diversity of tactics and we leave off some of the key tactics that have always been necessary for revolution, then in many ways we're fooling ourselves. In many ways we are saying, hey, I'm going to handle this part of the diversity of tactics and somebody else can handle this other part of diversity of tactics. I'm not calling you out whatsoever. This is something that I think about for myself and that I think about for many people around me. This idea that, somebody has to be the one to have the hard part of the diversity of tactics. And perhaps all of us have to be doing a part in all of the diversity of tactics. Wither King, I feel like I remember you from somewhere else. Thank you for following. Sucking at praxis is the first step to being kind of okay at praxis. That's good. Gonna go do some revolutionary work tomorrow. Right on. Yeah, shit will hit the fan the way it did in France and Russia in the 1800s once the white supremacist system is fully cornered and has no way out. Until then, it'll look more like skirmishes up to that point. I think the author would completely agree with you, Sean, that insurrections start with small actions and empower people until the larger thing comes. And that's another place where perhaps anarchists and communists agree so much more than they talk about, where neither one of us are accelerationists. Accelerationism is a fundamentally right-wing thing, right? Lupe. Abby Potato, aka Lupe, says, excuse me, I thought we were gonna overthrow the bourgeoisie through electoralism. Shit, that's funny. Anyway, insurrection by the most marginalized can grow to include a wider group of the exploited. This is a very important and interesting idea from this little bit of writing. The idea that the small activities will by nature be done by the people who are most pushed to the margins in society. That a lot of this revolutionary activity not in an abstract sense, but in a concrete sense, will of course be done by people who are hurt by society, people who don't have a lot of skin in the game for the status quo, and in fact have quite a bit of skin in the game for getting rid of the status quo because they're pushed down and hurt, right? So people like me, fuck I got going on over here? Oh shit. Man, my shit is all kinds of fucking whacked up. There we go. That's better. Better-ish. I'm hot. Take off this jacket. But I like my little linen pin. Y'all see my little linen pin? That's kind of fun. Anyway. Struggles that grow from a single controlling organization are easily integrated into the power structure of society. Now, this is something worth talking about. Pennon. Ah, Grim, that's fantastic. Um. Anyway, shit. Here we go. Smith got me this for my birthday. I think it's pretty cool. Can you see it? I got a bunch of them. This is one of my favorites, though. Um, Opinions on that person. They are bad. Obviously, Dave the Dale Man. Um, the communists were the ones who killed him. So very good. Uh, and goodbye, Boston sports fan. Um. So anyway, um, this is an interesting idea. I think this is important. Thanks, Elisa. I appreciate that. Struggles that grow from a single controlling organization are easily integrated into the power structure of society. This is a legitimate criticism of communists. It is. It's legitimate. When anarchists in particular talk about what's wrong with socialist countries right now, many of the things that they talk about are legitimate. Where I disagree with them is that they oftentimes will say, and therefore all states are bad, or and therefore that place needs a revolution, right? So when I talk about this, oftentimes what I say is I agree with you. There are things that need to change, but the big problem is America, the great Satan that pulls the strings around the world. Nonetheless, a revolution that integrates the prevailing forces of society, that does not challenge society, that does not have a social revolution aspect, that does not have a continuous revolution aspect, not to be confused with the Trotskyist idea of continuous revolution, which is or permanent revolution, whatever the fuck, which is in many ways silly because it should be called franchising revolution. I will say that yeah, we have to be careful. We have to be careful. And we have to admit when things have gone wrong. So there may end up needing to be a second revolution in some of the existing socialist states. That does not mean that we need to have one now. It does not mean that it would be beneficial to have one now. In fact, my personal belief is that to have a quote unquote wide scale anarchist revolution in many of these places would simply open the door for U.S. hegemony. But anarchists oftentimes are not advocating for a single wide scale anarchist revolution in a country, right? Which I think is good. That we can all agree that, like, sometimes regime change is not exactly what the country needs, but rather building up, having small skirmishes, weakening the main core government, right? And in the United States in particular, I think as long as the U.S. exists, some of these smaller developing nations will never have a chance to achieve their goals under socialism. And we have to have this idea of constantly changing things within ourselves, or else if there gets to be a serious structure, right? A seriously ingrained structure, a bureaucracy, then we always run the risk of being co-opted. We continually run the risk of being co-opted. Hold on, we got some people talking in the chat, so let's see. On the same page, glad to hear that, Elisa. Wonder how much those contradictions can be reduced. Well, considering that capitalism upholds white supremacy, upholds male domination, and that they are inextricably linked, a lot of these contradictions cannot go away until imperialism goes away, because imperialism is oftentimes male domination and white supremacy spread throughout the globe, right? Its effects are felt everywhere. So really, we have one great Satan, and that is the international imperialist system that we have to cut down. And after that's cut down, then we can start. We're in the process of cutting that down is when we have to start taking down some of these other things as well. So we cut down white supremacy while we cut down these government systems. And if we don't, we end up with shit. We end up with bad stuff. Um, anyway, thank you, Darth Aztec, for the gift sub. I really appreciate that. That's very cool. Dorian Sapiens, I would argue that in many ways what has happened in China mirrors that. I think it goes to degrees though, okay? And I think that's very important. I am not an absolutist, and I think that is where some of my anarchist comrades go wrong, is feeling like if something isn't absolutely right, then it's absolutely wrong. There is a difference between China and the United States. And if you don't see a difference between China and the United States, you need to examine that. I agree, Elisa. Satan is rad. Ave Satana, baby. Communists got shit on in every country they tried invading. God damn it, Palestine will win. Yagada, dagada. I thought you were going to be cool, but then you stopped being cool. Be cool. All I'm asking for is you to be cool, buddy. You see anybody else getting banned? I mean, you're gone now, so. Seb's dead. Anyway, uncontrollability. Sometimes y'all look at my slides and I think I should just ask Sal. I should pay Sal to make my slides because Sal makes so much better slides than me. My shit looks terrible compared to Sal's slides. You see that picture on the right? That like kind of fun vaporwave stuff. Sal's slides are all kind of like that. That shit is good. Become ungovernable. Hire me in, Sal. Yeah, no, Smith. As soon as you start helping me in ways that matter. Yes, exactly, Sean. That's what I'm saying. People who make it their whole thing to piss and moan about China while they live in the United States makes no fucking sense to me and makes them look like a Fed. What was that? You want this to become the Smith Street? No, you want to throw out some fighting words and you want me to come over and... Baby, I'm talking about real stuff right now. Somebody said TOS because I saw somebody get killed on stream. Anyway, Darth Aztec says, "Uh-oh, that sounds like the coach voice." Okay, uncontrollability. Can we talk about uncontrollability for a bit? It isn't possible to see the outcome of a struggle in advance. Whenever you do some of this insurrectionary action, you don't know what's going to happen. It doesn't mean we're accelerationists. It doesn't mean that we are trying to push for terrible things to happen. We're not hoping for that. In fact, we are studying what we have to do in order to make sure that shit happens. Leave me alone, Lupe. But that's okay, right? Because we do what we do with the best ideas that we have, and we don't try to see the future, and we don't let it paralyze us. That is, I think, the most important point here. We don't let it paralyze us. What the system is afraid of is not these individual acts of sabotage, but fearing them spreading socially. So this idea of you doing something, teaching other people to do it perhaps, but also inspiring copycats is the idea, right? The more copycats there are, the more people try to do shit, figure out new shit to do, the more insurrection happens, the more people get their fucking balls back, you know what I mean? They get their lives, they get their self-respect and dignity. This is something that George Jackson talked about quite a bit. If you are pushed around your entire fucking life, if you are always pushed down, if you never have a chance to actually physically fight back, not just talk and not just use the law to get somebody else to fight back for you, if you never actually fight back yourself, if you never taste the joy of fighting, then you have lived a lesser life. You have been, by definition, subjugated and controlled your entire life. So, becoming ungovernable is a goal in and of itself. Teaching other people to become ungovernable is a goal in and of itself. Jason Voorhees, I am also a queer. We are all queer. Probably like half the fucking chat is queer. So it's okay. LAPD said last year they prefer a 10,000 person protest and a 1,010 person protest. And I believe that to the bottom of my fucking heart. Which is why sometimes I think that a lot of these protests, a lot of the way that social media pushes single, like there will be like a rapid thing where like one protest will get a lot of coverage in the stages of planning, as in like it'll get a lot of like rapid viral attention, and a lot of these other smaller protests won't. I think that's purposeful. I think that the social media algorithm, sometimes people just know, like, the government knows that it's protest season or some shit's going down. So they say, okay, we're going to let that protest get a whole lot more views. Trans, pansexual, and queer squared. Hell yeah, Sean. Good shit. If you're queer, raise your hand. There you go. Let's get some sickles in the chat, y'all. I haven't seen many sickles lately. I would like to see some sickles in the chat. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, good shit. No, you just say sickles. BTTV now, y'all. That's awesome, T. Griff. Love that. Love that. No, John, nobody's got sickles. You got to use BTTV. You just say sickle, type it with a capital S, write sickle in chat, and then it'll show up on the screen as the sickle. Yeah, try it out. Try it out, John, real quick. Try it out. Now is not a good time for Twitter. I believe it, Ancon Soccer Mom. I'm sorry you're dealing with some bullshit. Shit. Anyway. Finally, the pigs can't control or stop an insurrectionary movement that comes from anywhere. And I think that's important to talk about control versus stop. The pigs have stopped all movements as it stands now. All insurrectionary movements in the United States have been stopped. Once a movement gets started, it's also important to worry about it being controlled. It is important to worry about it being controlled. All right? Mac, you got to capitalize that sickle. If you don't capitalize that sickle, it ain't going to show up on the screen. So, anyway, opportunist co-opting things has been a problem for 150 years. All right, from the very beginning, when Marx and Engels laid down the Communist Manifesto, opportunists were trying to fuck around. All right, so right now, the pigs have been able to stop everything. Eventually, the pigs will try to control it once it's started. So we have to watch out for these things in stages. Now, I want to talk to my rural comrades. I have a few rural comrades in the chat right now. There you go, Mac. Jason Voorhees, if you do it all caps, it ain't going to show up either. It's got to be just the first letter capitalized. It's very picky. I know, it's very picky. But to my rural comrades in the chat, you have advantages. You can do some of this shit, okay? You can do some of this shit and get away with it because you live in a little bit less of a surveillance state than, some of us comrades living in big cities do. All right? Neurogender. I don't know. What the fuck is neurogender? Has been the primary influence on my gender, which I still don't know what exactly they may be, but I feel more and more comfortable being under the queer umbrella. Right on, Marlon. That's good shit. Jason Voorhees, if you I'm interested. I can't talk about it too much because I gotta get through this presentation. But if you want to put down what neurogender is in the chat, that is very interesting to me. Anyway, so also you can have distributed actions, right? Thank you, Ancom Psycom. Yes, exactly. Distributed actions in the countryside mean you have almost no chance of getting caught doing shit. You know what I mean? If you hide out in the bushes with a let's just say with a preemptive barbecue device, then you can start a barbecue a lot easier. So, here's some uncontrollability in action, right? What does this mean? Acts of industrial sabotage. If you work in a factory, or if you work in any business, doing something that might cause a barbecue in the business is a good thing to do. Doing some barbecues is very fun. Hog hunting is very fun. When I lived in the South, you could go hog hunting all year round. You didn't need a permit. Guess what? When you become a revolutionary, an insurrectionary, then you can go hog hunting year round, right? Actively avoided doing much work today, right on, Exquisite Borbus. Good shit. The case of the missing widget, right? All the working class has to do is put their hands in their pockets, and they have. I forget the rest of the quote, but that's the start of revolution. Living in Iowa is basically all rural, even Des Moines. We live under less surveillance, sort of, but we also lack some of the advantages of living in an urban area, like organizing effectively, and we get ignored regularly. Being ignored leads to lack of motivation, leads to lack of organizing, which leads to being ignored more. Cyclical. I get that. What's interesting, though, is that I think, especially what this author talks about, is how we don't want to make it grand. We don't want to get a lot of attention necessarily. Words spoken in hushed voices spread across the country from one anarchist bookshop to another is in many ways more interesting than getting on the news. Keeping it anonymous to one or two people and having things build, having an energy build, right? Seeing more and more things happen, perhaps leaving a calling card, right? Perhaps leaving, telling someone somewhere what you've done and, trying to get a little bit of publicity is good, but you run risks doing that. So keeping it simple and anonymous and few people as possible is in many ways a good idea. It's less about getting a lot of attention, more about getting any attention at all from our comrades. I feel that, Sean. That kind of sucks. It really does. And yeah, Sean, I know you may not have much love for Mao, but I do want to say Mao talked about how rural comrades are doing the real work, and that many comrades who, seek out cushy positions in the big cities are not doing the real work whatsoever, and that they do not deserve the praise that the rural comrades deserve. That the true revolution happens in the countryside. And I know that Mao's China is a little bit different from our United States, but I believe in my heart, the spirit of what he was saying makes a lot of sense to me. You know what I mean? You have no issue with Mao? Okay, great, Sean. I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, that's what I believe what he was saying wholeheartedly, that like the comrades of the countryside are doing much more work than the people like me in the city. The comrades of the countryside are really bringing about revolution. I'm talking oftentimes to liberals. I'm trying to convince liberals to be better. People in the countryside are working with people who have oftentimes very reactionary views. And you're oftentimes in the front lines, both of danger and the police are willing to do worse things. I mean, whenever I've gone to protests in the countryside around here, like, not just the suburbs, but the other cities outside of my city, the much smaller towns and such, the cops get a little bit more comfortable threatening violence. I mean, tapes disappear. You know what I'm saying? It's not just cops turning off their cameras. It's sometimes entire tapes from like city parks completely disappear because cops did something bad. And everybody knows that it's a government cover up because that's the only way that it could have happened. But it happens. Nobody gets prosecuted. So I would say that y'all in the countryside are really doing real shit. You have my respect. You have my full fucking respect. Much more than I deserve as a city comrade. China is geographically similar. That's a very good point still, puppy. That's a very good point, actually. Totally agree with that. The only problem I have with fucking with capitalism through my job is that I work in a grocery store, and a lot of things that would fuck up business also risk the safety of the food people need. T. Griff, you got a good point there, buddy. Another thing I would say to that is, perhaps offloading some goods in a way that would help yourself and your comrades, but would not help the company can be good. But grocery stores are one of the few places where I would say, yeah, you don't really want to fuck up capitalism at the grocery store. No, burn down the McDonald's. Don't burn down the fucking Whole Foods. You know, just my opinion. And I know y'all might be thinking, oh, Gomer's so bougie, he's shopping at Whole Foods. Listen, if you're vegan and you shop at Whole Foods and you shop for the what's on sale, you can get very high quality stuff at the same prices as you would at a regular grocery store. So I I have been vegan for a while now, but I was vegan for a lot longer before, and I oftentimes would buy, if Brussels sprouts went on sale at the Whole Foods. That's where I'd go. So y'all don't turn your nose up and think that there's some kind of proletarian pride at shopping at Walmart and getting shitty vegetables. Um, Grocery stores, you can fuck up capitalism by quote unquote stealing the food that is being thrown away that's still perfectly good. That's a great point, Justinian. That's a very good point. Imagine having a Whole Foods in your town and not an Aldi's. Whole Foods more like whole paycheck, am I right? Farmers markets are better. It's true, Exquisite Vorbis. I will say, though, I have paid a pretty penny at a farmer's market sometimes. You got to find the right one. Sometimes them shits can be wildly over expensive. Anyway, continuing. There we go. Oh boy. Look at this shit. Anyway. Permanent conflict versus mediation with institutions. A struggle without violent conflict will always tend towards mediation with existing power. This is something I was trying to explain a little bit. Smith, you better not time out Sean. I know it's just for 10 seconds, but you better be careful. Just me if I lost weight. Yeah, Justinian, I feel you, is me too. So this is what I was talking about earlier. A struggle without any violent conflict. A struggle that is entirely based on teaching and preparing the masses and etc., right? It will always tend towards mediation with existing power. And you saw that last summer. Tell me y'all didn't see that last summer, right? Kneeling with cops. Protest leaders asked us to kneel with cops. Protest leaders saying, we are not the looters. We are not the anarchists. We are peaceful protesters. We disavow the violent people who have come to try to mess up this protest. Always heard this shit. Yeah, do 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 do. Yeah, do 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 do. So think about it. Why? Just closed my whole stream. Access denied. Access denied my ass. Oh yeah, I'm getting your schmogs. You're getting my schmogs. Yeah, that's correct, Exquisite Vorpus. That's correct. You missed my mod. I messed with your schmog. Don't touch my schmog. I'm trying to teach here. Look, I'm at. Trying to teach me a lesson that I don't need to be taught. No, Exquisite Vorbis, they don't got that sword. Really, Spectrum Melodies. I love that song. I do love that song. You don't got that what? Sword. You don't got the sword. I have a knife. You want me to go get my knife? What is that? A knife. No. Y'all remember that Vine? Oh shit. Every time we have one of these little conversations, I drop viewers, Smith. You're killing me here. Anyway. So nonviolence, whenever people elevate it to a moral principle, the work. All right, you have 30 seconds to fuck around. Do not show knives on screen. You're gonna get me in trouble. Show it in the sheath. Show it in the sheath, not like you're threatening anybody. Good. I ain't about to get banned because you want to show people your cool knife. Hey, it's too bad that guy who was talking earlier about the shamogs. Get over here. Not only am I not getting on your stream, but neither are you. Okay, enough. I have to teach. I wanted you to show them your shamog. A proper mod web. Yeah, that is my favorite one, Sean. Come here, show me your shamog. God damn it. No, it's my shamog. All right. Not theirs. All right. I gotta teach. Go away. So nonviolence. Oh, Sean. Okay, Lupe. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you gotta go take a quiz, but I'm glad you got to stop by. Anyway, nonviolence elevated to a moral principle, dividing the world into anything is either good or bad, right? That is lib stuff at best, and it is a counterinsurgency psyop at worst, all right? I think that is very true, and I think so much of the black and white thinking that happens all over Twitter in particular, but among internet activists and even activists in real life, a lot of people who just became activists, I see this shit. So let me give you an example, all right? Imagine, if you will, someone who works at a donut shop, okay? And pigs come in every day to get their donuts, and the donut shop worker gives them their donuts, right? Hey, BBDH, how you doing? Hey, Comrade Voltron, welcome. Anarcho-pacifism is a failure. I agree, Jason Voorhees. Don't mean shit. Oh, yeah, Sean. Bird app is like a light bulb for FedMods. So this person does definitely help the pigs in a way by feeding them, right? We always talk about how we want to feed our comrades. So if you work at a donut shop that happens to be frequented by pigs, then you are helping the police in a way, right? Now, let me give you another scenario. You got somebody who makes software that that the pigs happen to use, right? The software helps the pigs do their job somehow. Who the fuck knows, right? Just some kind of, it's like an enterprise business software, all right? Now, that person, the person who is working on the software that pigs happen to use, is going to get way more shit than the person who is working at the donut shop. In fact, the donut shop person is going to be joked around with. They're going to say much like you're saying in the chat. Why don't you spit in their donuts and their coffee? Why don't you trip up and spill the coffee on them? Blah, blah, blah. Right? It's like, funny jokes and shit. But the person who works in this other field is going to be seen as a class traitor, right? I think this is really important to call out. This idea that having a job that somehow interacts with capital or interacts with the system of white supremacist incarceration and violence that we have there can somehow be moral jobs that just happen to interact with the system, and there are immoral jobs that are part of the problem. Now, being a cop obviously is a problem. Working at a fucking police station is obviously a problem. Joining the military is a problem. But so much of the things that people do otherwise that are not directly related to the oppression of others, especially leftist Twitter, has this thing of like having a hierarchy of what jobs are acceptable, having a hierarchy of what free time activities are acceptable, right? And so what I want to say, eating ass is the only ethical consumption under capitalism. Yes. What I want to say is this binary good and bad thinking is worthless. Recognize that whatever you do, whatever fucking job you have, you are taking part in the system. Even if you are an illegalist, even if you are only robbing banks and selling drugs and shit, right? Then you still have to buy things, and you're keeping these oil companies afloat by putting gas in your car, right? So unless you're stealing from every single yeah, exactly, you're still moving money. Sean. So don't view things as good and bad. You can view things on a continuum. You can have jobs that you would not personally feel comfortable doing because it's too close to the system of oppression. But don't get high and mighty. Moralism, feeling better than your comrades, is bullshit. It is not worthwhile. It does not help the revolution. And in fact, I would say this kind of like street cred shit that I oftentimes see on Twitter and in real life is it's egotism. It is terrible. It's not worthwhile. So I don't fucking do it. You know what I mean? If somebody works at a slaughterhouse, do I personally see, I mean, as a vegan, do I see a problem with the meat industry? Yes, I fucking do, right? But if you have to live by working at a slaughterhouse, you know what? That is not my place to judge. We're all victims of this system. I want to end your fucking job, right? I want to get rid of the place that you work and have a little barbecue in its ashes, but I don't feel like a better human being than you just because I happen to have a nice cushy office job, right? Thank you, Darth Aztec. I appreciate that. Yeah, Ancom Soccer Mom. I agree. I'm just that little bit that I just gave, that whole thing, that's something that I literally heard. I heard somebody try to tell one of my friends who works on some software that some pigs use, that they found out about them. My friend never hid the fact that they were a software developer. I mean, they work at the fucking front desk. It's not even that they're a software developer, right? And they found out about them and found out who one of their customers is. And they need to look at themselves. They need to. And I was just like, oh, like I got so upset listening to my friend's story because it was like, listen. I think working at the Glock factory may be bad, right? It may not be a good thing. I think working at the like police helmet headquarters is probably not a great thing. But I have to say that somebody working in the fucking music industry, or like, because LA entertainment everywhere, somebody who works in the fucking music industry or the film industry trying to come for somebody else is really fucking rich. You know what I mean? Because the exploitation, the sexism, the racism, the downright rape culture that is throughout the film industry and the music industry is unbelievable, right? So if we want to talk about moralism and jobs, there's a lot of people in LA who need to look at themselves. And that's all I'm going to say about that, all right? That's all I'm going to say about that. Yes, agreed, Still Puppy. The system is what conflates people with their jobs. We got to not do that. You're not a job, you're a person. So anyway, yes, theater also has a shit ton of problems. Absolutely, Conway. Fucking, I know this. So anyway, that's enough of that slide. So let's talk about illegalism for a second. I want to say this, okay? I think Stirner is a fucking nerd, dude. I think Stirner was a fucking nerd, dude. And let me tell you something else, okay? The funniest thing about this is that Stirner was very upset at anybody who would take a picture of him, anybody who would fucking draw him or something. And Stirner had this picture drawn, right? And it has become the emblem of his ideology. No other ideology, even Marxism is not as closely connected with a physical picture of Marx as egoism is connected to this picture of Stirner. How fucking funny is it that Stirner, who hated having his picture taken, that was an egoist, that demanded his fucking rights about everything, is the one who is the most abused in death? The people that his fucking followers don't listen to the most about his wishes with his fucking picture. God damn, it's so fucking funny. It just cracks me the fuck up. God, it makes me laugh so much. I just think of how pissed off Stirner is in heaven. Exactly. No gods, no masters. That includes you, Stirner. Oh God. If y'all don't think that's funny, I just don't know what to do with you. Egoism is communist objectivism. God damn, Jason Voorhees, that is a cold burn and the truth. Um, anyway, anarchism is not just selling drugs and robbing banks. Y'all know that. We've already talked about that. Anarchists don't, this is also the author speaking, not me. Anarchists don't fetishize illegal acts or being martyrs. And I think that communists have a lot to learn from this, right? We do not need to fetishize violence, right? We can recognize that violence is necessary without fetishizing it. A lot of people call me a LARPer, especially like the trolls who come on this stream call me a LARPer. But genuinely, what I want to say is, I think that a lot of communist aesthetic is fun. I think that a lot of what we do is cool, right? But that's not the reason that we do it. It can't be the reason that we do it, right? We, as much as I would love to die for communism in a way that means something, what I have to do is understand that the fight, staying alive, is important, right? The fight is necessary. We don't do it for the purpose of just loving the fight. We don't do it for the purpose of being cool. We do it because we care about ourselves and we care about others. We understand that there's no way out of the system but by destroying it. And because there's no way out of the system but by destroying it, we have to be very real about what is required of us, right? So even though it might be required of us that we lay down our lives for each other, for other people, for people that we don't know, that does not mean that that aspect of it is what's important. It's the caring about people. It's the being willing to do that. It's the trying hard. It's the bullshit work for years that you do to try not to have to do that. All the planning and preparation, right? All the sneaking around, waiting, not tooting your own horn, not talking about yourself, right? Not just robbing banks and being like a world famous bank robber and, all the egotism shit. We don't do that. You can't do much if you're in the jail or the grave. Exactly, Sean. So having no glory, having no one remember your name, but acting in the shadows to bring about communism in the world is fucking awesome. That's what we need to do. That does not mean not doing the big deeds. In fact, the most awesome thing is to do the big deeds and simply not get a lot of credit for it. That also doesn't mean that we should never try to get credit for anything we do. In fact, it is very important oftentimes to spread the word about the good things that we're doing, right? To talk openly and loudly about the good that we do in the community, about the fights that we win. But as an individual, it is important to survive. And people who talk a lot about the things that they do from an insurrectionary standpoint don't tend to stay alive. That's the long and the short of it, straight up. Right. We don't do dogmatism. We don't do book worship, right? You have to do it without preemptive barbecue devices because those are produced unethically. No. No ethical consumption besides eating ass. Get them preemptive barbecue devices. Yeah, T Griff. Optics suck, but they do matter. There's a certain Muro. Thank you for following. Shit, I thought you was following already. You know I like you, buddy. I just want to say that one last thing here about that is that optics are really important. Optics are really important for inspiring people, right? I do not buy into this Christian idea that we should not show who we truly are and we should do all of our good deeds in quiet. No. That's not what communists do. We want to show wins. Showing wins is very important, right? So never get it twisted. Showing wins is important. No, not Marlin. Not Marlin. I said Muro. Muro's somebody that I liked on Twitter and that I thought came to my stream sometimes. But in any case, welcome, Muro. I'm very glad to have you here. Effective actions will always be illegalized, but illegality is not particularly moral. Survival and effectiveness are really what's important here, all right? Sometimes we have to make compromises with capital, as in having a fucking job, right? That is not a failure. It's not a failure to have a job. Okay. So, continuing. Informal organization. This is from the book now, and I think this is very interesting. Anarchists are not trying to build something that will last. Anarchists are not worried about getting big numbers. They're quality over quantity, is what the person in the book says, right? The author. They're not trying to build a movement from a rear guard position, right? Exactly, Comrade Grimm. Totally agree with you. Just smell your own farts while you do it. Yes. So I thought this was a very interesting idea. Anarchists are not trying to build something that will last. The person in this book is talking about how you're trying to get people closer to the point of building these conditions of revolt. So you're moving things along. You're not trying to build a movement, right? There's a big difference between moving things along and trying to build a movement. Now you are trying to get people to the point where they believe they can do something. You're trying to empower people, right? But empowering people does not mean building a long-lasting organization, a long-lasting idea, right? That will take hold of people and bring them together and have like a what should we call it? Have a lasting influence, a way of having life after death through fame, right? The author is saying anarchism isn't about that. You're doing actions on a day-to-day basis. You're doing actions in order to empower people individually at that time, right? You're trying to help the latent conflicts that are definitely there be made obvious. What's the point, freak percentile? What do you mean? Please explain. I think this is a very good idea. I think that us communists living in the United States can learn from this, because we communists living in the United States are not living in a time and place that has a active working vanguard movement. That is just how I feel, right? So small cadres doing shit in their local area is in fact a good thing to do, right? Help inspire the people, teach people about communism, start some barbecues. Fanning the flames of class struggle, building a path to liberation. Yes. Compersion. I don't know what that is, T. Griff. Can you give a definition of that? So yeah, we communists need to learn from this, because oftentimes we have these fantasies. I don't have a fantasy about being the next Lenin. I don't have a fantasy even of starting any kind of group that'll last forever. But sometimes I do have fantasies about being part of a larger struggle that continues on, that turns into something amazing. But I have the idea of from an organizational standpoint, right? And that is dangerous. I think that the author has a very good point in saying that that can be co-opted. That can be led right back into the prevailing dominant systems. So instead of focusing on having something that will last, something that will live, focus on building the conditions. So that's what we're working on. With my cadre, the only thing that I really give a shit about is doing good things in the area and trying to teach each other. That's all I care about. The opposite of jealousy. Very interesting. That's very interesting, y'all. Yeah. What would you say the distinguishing factor between accelerationism and the last paragraph of the slide is? Very easy to say, Grim. Accelerationism does not seek to show people about the contradictions. It seeks to make the contradictions worse until eventually they collapse, right? This is a bad way of doing things, right? Thanks, Comrade Voltron. To try to force things to go towards the collapse sometimes does not take into account the way in which it is happening. And capitalists getting more and more control without actually teaching the people to be more independent, right? Without having a focus on inspiring people to act for themselves, are two very different ways of acting. So even though they may use the same tools, the accelerationist and the insurrectionary anarchist may oftentimes do similar actions, but the point of the actions are not the same. And if the insurrectionary anarchist is studying the material conditions, they will not act in exactly the same way. They may only have a little bit of overlap in actions with someone who would call themselves an accelerationist, right? Their actions will be against the powers that be. There's a big difference between causing chaos by bombing a movie theater or something and going hog hunting. There is a big difference. Ali, hey, thank you. Appreciate you rating. There's a big difference between, um, you know, looking at somebody like Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates and thinking of them as a trophy, right? Versus trying to accelerate the speed at which they accumulate capital and it falls apart, right? So yeah, accelerationists may think in some ways they are trying to help make the latent conflicts clear, but generally speaking, they are not. And also, generally speaking, accelerationists don't give a shit about people. And coming from that point of view of not caring about people, coming from that point of view of being a troublesome person who thinks the ends justify the means, will almost always force you into a position where you're doing things that actively hurt and disempower the masses, not make them ready for revolution. Let's give a shout out to Ali is crying. There we go. This is very nice. I appreciate you coming in this time and last time, Ali is crying. That's very cool. So, yes, Marlon, very good. Marlon has a lot of good things to say. Y'all should listen to Marlon. I hear you, T. Griff. I do. Same tools, different project. Exactly, Grim. So individualism versus communism is a false dichotomy, according to the author. And I think there's something to this. Communists, oftentimes, we talk about things in a way of like, hey, we got to come together. We got to do this shit. And they separate themselves from the proletariat. You are not separate from the proletariat, in which you are. In which case, I guess I'm glad you're watching the chat. But generally speaking, you are a part of the proletariat. You are a working class person. Or maybe you don't have a job. Maybe you're part of the lumpen proletariat. Maybe you're struggling like a motherfucker right now, right? Just because you stream, just because you make content, just because you are a communist, just because, any number of things doesn't somehow take you out of the proletariat. You are exploited, right? And white people are exploited too. We're exploited differently, of course, from non-white people. Men, we're exploited too. We are, of course, exploited differently from non-men. But the point is not that we say, oh, well, it's a little bit different. We come from a little bit of a place of privilege, and that means the exploitation doesn't exist at all. On the other hand, of course, it doesn't mean that you can say, oh, we're all exploited, so like that's what's important. Ain't we all just exploited? That's bullshit too, right? You have to be able to recognize how other people are exploited differently than you and still be able to recognize that you are exploited, right? So I mention that because the individual benefit of breaking out of the paradigm that we live in, right? The individual benefit of getting rid of capitalism is important. If you're not privately wealthy, if you are not an owner of the means of production, then you will benefit from communism. And you can accept that. You can hold that to heart, right? No reducto el classo, yeah. Exactly. T. Griff says, emotionally, after my roommate was arrested for a traffic ticket and held for 48 hours in the holding cell without being processed, denied legal counsel or phone calls, and had his asthma inhaler taken from him, then told breathes better when he had 3 asthma attacks in that time, really want to blow something up. Well, you know what, T. Griff? I don't think, I will just say this. Personally, I think going hog hunting is not accelerationism. Going hog hunting is, in fact, inspiring to other people who might be inspired to do the same thing. So that ain't accelerationism. You don't have to be patient and sit on your hands and wait around and hope that the world gets better. That's the opposite of what this person who wrote this is talking about. They're saying, go fucking do it. Just make sure that you're not doing it so that we end up in the crash and go for the crash alone. Because if you just go for the crash alone, if you just have an eye out for accelerating the contradictions, well, that is a way to lead to fascism. Third Precinct was only the beginning. Hell yeah, Exquisitor Vorbis, that's what I'm saying. And as much as I don't like Robert Evans, he did say one time that now the entire United States knows that a police station can be taken. And I thought that was pretty fucking cool. Yeah, Freak Percentile, there is a balance. Exactly. Make sure you know you're hunting hogs is a very important thing as well, right? And that's why we talk about planning and shit. So, there's no equality or conformity of individuals implied in true communism. We are not saying that everyone is equal, everyone produces the same, everyone requires the same, everyone's an automaton, right? You put food in, extract work, and then they shit and sleep, right? That's not how it is. Communism accepts that there are differences in people. There's differences in the way people work. There's differences in what people want. There's differences in the way people think. And that is a valuable thing that is useful for production and just for benefit of all of humanity, right? So, the individualism versus communism idea is in many ways it's a fucking op. It's a psyop. We don't have to say that there's anything particularly non-individualistic about communism, but there is a selfish individualism that rejects others that is anti-communist, right? So something to think about. Let's see. Yeah, I just don't like him. I don't like him, Jason Voorhees. We'll talk about that another time. Lupe Potato, yes. But Dorian Sapiens does have some good points. We value individuality rather than individualism. Exactly. Oh, fuck yeah, Lupe. Let's go. That's awesome. Glad to hear that. So, finally, and this is, I think, really worth talking about here. Societal roles have been pushed on people in all kinds of social structures of many ideologies, and that don't make it right, okay? We can say that in some communist nations, there has been homophobia. Yes. Let's get the commie cow in the chat. I love that commie cow. Is homophobia acceptable? Not to me. In many communist countries, lower form of communism, I mean to say, which is socialism. In many communist countries, there has been a pretty disturbing lack of femme-presenting people in leadership. We can criticize this. We can say that that is a social holdover that has infected the government, right? So anyway, the point here is that this idea of everyone becoming an automaton and having these having some people be downtrodden under communism is a false idea that is pushed by the fucking feds, basically. Lupe, I don't know the actual lyrics to this song, but I'd love to sing it for you if I did. Dugga dugga bugga doggy bugga dog doggy buggy dog dog buggy doggy doggy dog dog. Love that song. Anyway, all right, y'all. That is the end of my presentation. I do appreciate everybody coming today. Thank y'all so much. It's a lot of fun. It's been fun talking to you. I think I would like to raid into Dexter Chaco.